Hey guys, tonight we are going to peel back the perfumed, marble-white sheets of ancient Rome and listen to the secrets of its sleepless nights. You are a wealthy Roman aristocrat, resting in your opulent villa, the envy of the city. But as darkness falls, a strange and frustrating reality sets in. The very things that signal peace and quiet to us, the setting of the sun, the end of the workday, meant the exact opposite for you. In fact, if you were suddenly transported back to your ancient Roman bedroom with your modern sensibilities, you probably wouldn't survive the night. Not from a lurking assassin, but from the sheer, mind-numbing annoyance of it all. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps the channel find other people like you, who appreciate the quieter, stranger corners of history. And for a bit of fun, post your location and what time it is where you are, so we can all see where in the world we're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your eyelids feel heavy. It's been a long day, a classic Roman marathon of duty and decorum. You rose at dawn to receive your queue of clients, the hangers-on who depend on your patronage. You spent the midday hours at the forum, navigating the currents of power, making speeches, and cutting deals. In the afternoon, you cleansed the city's grime from your skin at the grand public baths, and just a few hours ago, you concluded a lavish dinner party, the Cena, where you served wine from Greece and oysters from Britain. Now, finally, you are where you've wanted to be for hours, in your cubiculum, your bedroom, lying on a mattress stuffed with the finest wool from Gaul. Your slave has just extinguished the main oil lamp, leaving only a single, tiny flame flickering in a dish of oil, casting long, dancing shadows across the frescoed walls. For a fleeting moment, there is something resembling silence. You can hear the gentle gurgle of the fountain in the central courtyard, the peristyle. You can hear the soft rustle of your linen tunic as you shift your weight. You take a deep, calming breath. And then it begins. It starts not as a crash, but as a low, distant rumble, like the growl of some great beast waking from its slumber. It's the sound of wooden wheels on stone, and it's coming from every direction. This, you reflect with a familiar wave of resignation, is the sound of Roman law in action. The great Julius Caesar, in his infinite wisdom, passed a decree, the Lex Ilia Municipalis, banning most commercial wheeled traffic from the city streets during the daylight hours. It was a sensible idea on paper, an attempt to ease the truly epic gridlock of pedestrians, litters, and chariots that choked the narrow avenues from sunup to sundown. The problem, of course, is that a city of 1 million people doesn't stop needing things just because the sun has set. Food, wine, oil, construction materials, textiles, luxury goods, the entire metabolic engine of Rome had to be supplied. And so, the moment the ban lifted at dusk, the floodgates opened. The distant rumble swells into a grinding, bone-jarring roar. Heavy-duty supply carts, the plaustra, with their solid, unforgiving wooden wheels, begin their slow, agonizing journey into the city center. Imagine the sound of 1,000 bowling balls rolling down a cobblestone hill, and you're getting close. These aren't just a few isolated wagons, this is the ancient world's equivalent of every semi-truck, delivery van, and cement mixer hitting the highway at the exact same time. You can hear the sharp crack of a whip, followed by a torrent of curses from a frustrated driver trying to urge his mules up a slight incline. The vocabulary of these men is famously coarse, you've heard them during the day at the markets, but their nighttime shouting seems to carry a special, sleep-depriving venom. It's as if they're personally angry at you for trying to rest. Historians still argue whether the daytime ban was universally enforced or if the very wealthiest citizens, perhaps someone like your annoying neighbor Gaius, could secure a special permit or diploma through a well-placed bribe, allowing their goods to move during the less disruptive daytime hours. You suspect Gaius has won, because his wine deliveries never seem to arrive at 3 in the morning. As you lie there, you try to identify the sounds. That high-pitched, metallic clanking? That would be a shipment of iron bars for the new bathhouse extension. That rhythmic, sloshing sound accompanied by the shattering of terracotta? Someone's entire consignment of Spanish olive oil has just met its end on the corner of your street, a minor disaster that will make the paving stones slick and treacherous for days. It was Caesar's brilliant idea to solve daytime traffic, but it feels like he just invented noise pollution and the all-night urban rave, only with more donkeys and less rhythm. You pull the thick wool blanket over your head, a futile gesture. The noise doesn't just travel through the air, it vibrates up through the very foundation of your house. Your domus is built of stone and plaster, excellent materials for conducting sound. You can feel the rumble in your bones. Then comes a new sound, a sharp, rhythmic clatter. It's the hobnailed sandals, the caligy of a group of late-night revelers, or perhaps a squad of the city's night watch, the vigils, on patrol. The sound is so distinctive, a young legionary commander was nicknamed Caligula, Little Boots, because of the miniature military sandals he wore as a child. It's a quirky little fact of history that brings you absolutely no comfort right now, as the sound of their marching feet echoes off the high walls of the buildings, making it impossible to tell if they are 10 feet away or 100. You just want it to be quiet. But in Rome, the night belongs to the cart driver, the drunkard, and the sleepless patrician. And your long night has only just begun. You roll over, pressing the side of your face into the mattress, as if the pressure alone could somehow create a pocket of silence. But it's no use. The vibrations from the street seem to have found a sympathetic resonance within the very structure of your home. You live in a domus, a private, single-family house, a mark of true wealth and status. It is your fortress of solitude, your statement to the world. And acoustically, it is an absolute disaster. Your architect, a clever Greek fellow named Apollodorus, would probably look at you with utter confusion if you tried to explain the concept of soundproofing. He designed for light, for air, for status, and for keeping the summer heat at bay. The idea that a home should also be a quiet sanctuary from the noise of the city would have seemed like a bizarre and frankly unnecessary luxury. Your bedroom, the cubiculum, is a small, intimate space. Its walls are covered in beautifully painted frescoes depicting scenes from mythology. Leda and the Swan, a popular if slightly awkward choice for a bedroom. But the room is located, like many Roman bedrooms, just off the main hall, the atrium. This is the grand entrance to your home, the first thing any visitor sees. In its center is the impluvium, a shallow rectangular pool designed to catch rainwater that falls through a corresponding opening in the roof, the compluvium. During the day, this is an ingenious design, allowing light and fresh air to penetrate the heart of the house. At night, it becomes an echo chamber. The rumbling of the carts on the street pours through the main doorway, which is likely just a heavy curtain or a set of wooden doors, and bounces off the marble floor and the surface of the water in the pool, amplifying and scattering the sound in every direction. It's the original open-plan living concept, just taken a little too far for anyone hoping for 8 hours of sleep. So the noise from the street in front of your house funnels directly towards your bedroom. You can hear it all. You hear a heated argument break out between 2 mule drivers over who has the right of way. You hear the mournful creak of an ungreased axle that seems to stretch on for an eternity as it slowly passes your door. Then there's the noise from behind. Your domus also features a peristyle, a larger, open-air courtyard, essentially a private garden surrounded by a colonnade. It's where your wife grows her prize-winning roses and where you conduct business on warm afternoons. But it's also another giant opening, welcoming the noise from the alleyway or the street behind your property. It's a secondary noise funnel. The sounds of a nearby tavern, the laughter and shouting from a late-night gambling den, the barking of a stray dog, they all drift over the back wall, dance around the columns of your lovely garden, and slide in through the unshuttered windows of the rear rooms. And about those windows, glass was a rare and phenomenally expensive luxury. Most Romans didn't have it in their homes. Your windows are likely just openings, perhaps with heavy wooden shutters you can latch. But shutters do little to block the low, vibrating rumble of the wagons or the sharp, percussive shouts of the drivers. You've closed them, of course, but the sound seems to seep through the wood. And some rooms don't even have shutters. They are just holes in the wall, designed to catch a breeze. And with the breeze comes the entire symphony of Rome's nocturnal chaos. You even have decorative items that add to the din. Historians know that some wealthy Romans hung tintinnabular elaborate wind chimes, often featuring bells and a surprisingly prominent winged phallus, the fascinum, to ward off the evil eye and bring good fortune. A lovely thought during the day, but a source of random, tinkling noise all through the windy night. As you lie there, you contemplate the very purpose of this room. Historians still argue whether the cubiculum was exclusively a bedroom or a multi-purpose space. Some suggest that because it was often located near the atrium, it also served as a convenient place for very private business meetings or for storing important documents. From that perspective, its location near the public part of the house was a feature, not a bug. This thought provides zero comfort. The idea that your bedroom was designed for commercial convenience rather than restful peace feels like a personal insult from your ancestors. You are trapped in a beautiful, expensive, and exquisitely designed megaphone. Every architectural choice made to make your home a cool, airy, impressive paradise in the Mediterranean sun conspires to make it an inescapable echo chamber at night. You try to focus on the painted face of Leda on the wall, but her expression seems less one of divine surprise and more one of deep, unending annoyance at the noise. You know exactly how she feels. You give up on trying to block the noise. It's a part of the air, a part of the house. Instead, you open your eyes and stare into the gloom of your bedroom. The darkness is not complete, not absolute. It's a murky, restless dark, punctuated by the single, tiny flame of the oil lamp your slave left on the bedside table. It's a lucerna, a simple terracotta lamp, though yours is a fancier bronze model shaped like a ship's prow. The flame sputters from a single wick made of flax, greedily drinking the olive oil from the lamp's belly. The light it gives off is pathetic, barely stronger than a modern phone screen on its dimmest setting. It does little to illuminate the room, but it does just enough to make the shadows writhe and dance. The swan on the wall fresco seems to stretch its neck in the shifting light, and the face of a god painted on the ceiling seems to twist into a momentary sneer. This flickering, unstable light is not a comfort. It is an accomplice to your anxiety. And then there is the smell. The oil in this particular lamp is high grade, perfumed even, a small luxury you can afford. But it's not the only lamp in your 1,000-square-foot home. Dozens of others, either extinguished for the night or left burning in hallways, use a much cheaper grade of oil. This is the low-quality stuff, the dregs of the olive press, unfit for cooking. When it burns, it gives off a greasy, acrid smell, like rancid fat mixed with smoke. It's the signature aroma of the Roman night, a constant, cloying background scent that seeps into fabric, into wood, into your very hair. You're so used to it you barely notice it most of the time, but now, with all your senses on high alert, you can pick it out, a foul undertone beneath the scent of night-blooming jasmine from your garden. It's the ancient equivalent of a cheap, malfunctioning air freshener that only makes the air feel dirtier. Worse than the smell is the soot. Every single one of these lamps produces a fine, black, oily powder fuligo. During your last redecoration, you saw the extent of it on the ceilings, a dark grey stain that had to be scrubbed or painted over. It gets everywhere. It settles as a fine dust on shelves, it blackens the inside of your nostrils as you breathe, and it contributes to the hacking cough you sometimes notice among your older slaves. Historians still argue whether the constant, low-level smoke inhalation from these thousands of domestic lamps was a major contributor to the respiratory illnesses they find in Roman skeletal remains, or if the general urban air pollution from workshop forges and cooking fires was the greater culprit. Lying here, breathing in the faintly smoky air of your own bedroom, you feel like you could offer a fairly strong opinion on the matter. But the greatest anxiety produced by this tiny, sputtering flame isn't the smell or the soot. It's the simple, terrifying fact that it is an open flame in a house full of flammable things. Your mattress is stuffed with wool. The blankets are wool and linen. You have wooden furniture, heavy curtains separating rooms, and the entire roof is held up by massive wooden beams. All it would take is a sudden gust of wind from that unshuttered window, a clumsy stumble in the dark by a slave answering a late-night call, or even a cat leaping onto the table, and your whole world could be consumed by fire. This isn't a vague, irrational fear. Rome burns. It burns constantly. The city is a tinderbox of aging, overcrowded wooden apartment blocks insulally, and even your grand stone domus is not immune. The cry of Ignis. Fire is one of the most terrifying sounds in the city. And sometimes, on a night like this, you're sure you can hear it, a faint, panicked shout from a few blocks away, and your heart leaps into your throat. Is it your neighbor's property? Is the wind blowing in your direction? The night watch, the vigils, are primarily a fire brigade, but their effectiveness is variable. By the time they arrive with their axes and buckets, it's often too late. So you lie there, staring at the flame. You weigh your options. You could call for your slave to put it out, plunging the room into absolute, total darkness. But the blackness outside the cities, in the countryside, is a profound, deep velvet. The blackness in the city is different. It's a darkness full of unseen things, of edges to trip over and people moving silently in the alleyways. Total darkness feels like surrendering. So you leave the lamp burning, and you watch the flame dance, a tiny, domesticated star that holds both the promise of sight and the threat of annihilation. It's not exactly a recipe for sweet dreams, this constant, low-grade calculation of risk that is the price of light itself. You shift your weight on the wool mattress, and a low, gurgling protest rises from deep within your stomach. The external world, the carts, the shouting, the flickering lamp is a relentless assault. But now you become aware of a second front of this war against sleep, one opening. Up from within. It's the ghost of dinner past. Your stomach is a churning, unhappy vessel, and you know exactly why. The scene you hosted tonight was a resounding success. Your guests were impressed, your political rivals were subtly intimidated by your casual display of wealth, and your wife seem pleased. The cost of that success is being paid now by your own digestive system. You feel bloated, heavy, a sour heat creeping up your throat. It all comes back to you in a hazy, wine-softened memory. The dining room, the triclinium, with its 3 large couches arranged in a U shape around a central table. You and your 8 guests spent hours there, not sitting, but reclining, propped up on your left elbows. It's a posture that looks elegant and relaxed on a vase painting, but in practice, it's a terrible way to eat a large meal. It's great for conversation, terrible for your esophagus. The evening began with the gustachio, the appetizer course. There were eggs sprinkled with pepper, salty olives, and, a special treat, dormice fattened on a diet of walnuts and honey, rolled in poppy seeds and baked. A delicacy that seemed like a fine idea at the time, but feels like a small, furry mistake now. Then came the main event, the primi mensi, a parade of dishes designed to showcase the vast reach of the Roman Empire and your own sophisticated palate. A whole wild boar, roasted and theatrically carved at the table. There were trussed-up thrushes, and for the guest of honor, a dish of flamingo tongues, a famously pointless extravagance that was more about the statement than the flavor. And coating almost everything was the taste of the sea, the ubiquitous Roman condiment, garum. This was the good stuff, garum sociorum, a prized sauce made from the fermented intestines and blood of mackerel from the coast of Spain. It added a complex, salty, umami kick to everything it touched. It was the ketchup, soy sauce, and Worcestershire sauce of your world, all rolled into one pungent, fishy liquid. And as you burp quietly into the darkness, you can still taste its phantom residue, a lingering, salty ghost on your tongue. Of course, all of this was washed down with copious amounts of wine. Not the straightforward vintages of today, but wine mixed with water in a large crater, sometimes spiced, sometimes sweetened with honey. Cup after cup, for hours. Finally, the secundi mensi, the dessert course, arrived with fruits, nuts, and pastry sweetened with yet more honey. It was a culinary marathon, a performance of consumption. Now, in the quiet of your bedroom, the performance is over, and only the physiological consequences remain. Your stomach is a battleground where the fatty boar, the salty fish sauce, and the sweet wine are locked in a sloshing, gurgling stalemate. It's at times like these that you understand the popular misconception about the vomitorium. The less sophisticated think it was a room designed for guests to purge their meals so they could return to the feast and eat more. A disgusting but strangely practical idea. You, being an educated man, know the truth. Historians will still argue about this centuries from now, but you know the word vomitorium actually refers to the large passageways in a theater or amphitheater, so named because they vomit forth the crowds into the street. Your house does not have a special room for being sick. Still, as another wave of acid reflux burns its way up your chest, you can almost appreciate the sentiment behind the myth. The sheer volume of food was an endurance test. You lie there, trying to find a position that doesn't put pressure on your distended stomach. You roll onto your back, but that just seems to encourage the heartburn. You roll onto your side, and the contents of your stomach shift with a worrying lurch. You ate like a king, and now you have the indigestion of a god. It's one more enemy of sleep, a traitor from within, proving that even the most fabulous dinner party has its price. As the last gurgling protest from your stomach subsides into a tense, uneasy quiet, your body's misery gives way to the far more potent torture of your mind. Physical discomfort is a blunt instrument, but anxiety is a surgeon's scalpel, dissecting your peace one nerve at a time. The noises from the street, the flickering shadows, the sour taste in your mouth, they all recede to become the background music for the main performance, which takes place now entirely within your own skull. Your thoughts drift back to the dinner party, replaying each conversation, each glance, each shared joke, searching for hidden meanings and potential threats. It's exhausting work, this constant, paranoid vigilance. You think of Senator Marcellus, your supposed ally, who seemed a little too eager to praise your wine. Was he being genuine, or was it a subtle mockery of your taste? And what about young Disuse, the ambitious upstart who is climbing the cursus honorum, the ladder of public office, with unsettling speed? He made a comment about the new aqueduct contract, a contract you had hoped to secure for your own syndicate. Was it an innocent remark, or a signal that he already knows your bid is doomed? Roman politics isn't a gentlemanly debate, it's a bloodsport dressed in white togas, a relentless game of alliances and betrayals where your best friend one day might be the man who denounces you in the Senate the next. It's like a season-long gladiatorial contest, but the weapons are rumors, lawsuits, and carefully worded insults you only realize were insults 3 hours later when you're lying in bed. Your mind churns through your obligations. At dawn, your atrium will be filled with your clients, poets needing a stipend, merchants needing a legal favor, countless ordinary men who depend on you for their livelihood. This network is the source of your power, your dignitas. But tonight, it feels less like a web of influence and more like a net of burdens. Each client is a promise you have to keep, a problem you have to solve. And each one represents a risk. What if that grain merchant you're backing is actually cheating his customers? His disgrace becomes your disgrace. What if the poet you support writes a verse that is deemed critical of the emperor? His poor judgment could be interpreted as your treason. This is the fear that truly gnaws at you, the one that lives in the heart of every wealthy Roman. It is the fear of falling from grace. 1 minute you are a respected senator, a man of property and influence. The next, your name could appear on a prescription list. A simple decree, posted in the forum, declaring you an enemy of the state. Your property is forfeit, your life is worthless, and any man can kill you for a reward. Your beautiful domus, your family's ancient lands, your wife's jewelry, all of it, gone. Your sons would be barred from public life, your name forever stained. It happened to Cicero's allies, it happened under the Second Triumvirate, and you know it could happen again if the political winds shift. Every powerful man you know has a list in his head, a list of men he would put on a prescription list if he could, and a list of men he fears would put him on one. It's a terrible way to live. Even more chilling, in a way, is the thought of damnatio memoriae, the damnation of memory. To not just be killed, but to be erased. Your statues would be pulled down, your face recarved into the likeness of another. Your name would be methodically chiseled off every building and monument you ever funded. To a Roman of your class, your legacy is everything. The idea of being utterly forgotten, of having your very existence officially denied, is a fate worse than death itself. Historians still argue whether the elaborate political maneuvering and backstabbing were the primary drivers of Roman policy or merely a theatrical sideshow to deeper economic and military pressures. Lying here, sweating in the dark, you can tell them that when you're the one whose reputation is on the line, the theater feels terrifyingly real. So your mind spins, an abacus of anxieties, calculating and recalculating your position. Who are your friends? Who are your enemies? Is there a difference? And you realize the truth, the noise isn't just outside. The loudest, most frightening sounds are the whispers inside your own head. Your mind, exhausted from the hamster wheel of political calculation, finally gives up. It's too tired to keep strategizing, too weary to keep parsing conversations. But the brain does not simply switch off. Instead, it drifts into an older, deeper, and perhaps even darker territory, the realm of superstition. You turn your head on the pillow and gaze through the doorway of your cubiculum, across the hall, towards the deep shadows pooling between the columns of the moonlit peristyle. The rational fears of prescription lists and political rivals fade, replaced by the far less logical but somehow more immediate fear of what walks in the dark. Because if the day belongs to man and the laws of the Senate, the night belongs to the gods, the spirits, and the restless dead. You are, by all accounts, a pious man. Every day, you pay your respects to the household gods. You leave a small offering of food for the lares, the ancestral spirits who protect your family, at the small shrine, the lararium, in your atrium. You honor the penates, the guardians of your pantry and provisions, ensuring your home remains prosperous and well-fed. These are the comfortable, domestic gods, the celestial landlords who keep things running smoothly as long as you pay your dues. But you know they are not the only supernatural forces at play. When the sun goes down, the veil between the world of the living and the underworld thins, and other, less friendly entities are free to wander. These are the lemures, the angry, unsatisfied ghosts of those who died violently or were denied proper burial rites. They are also called larvae, the hollow ones, and they are drawn to the warmth and light of human homes, jealous of the life they lost. Lying here, you find yourself reinterpreting the sounds of the night. That low moan of the wind whipping around the corner of the house, is it just wind, or is it the wail of a hungry spirit? That sudden creak from the wooden roof beams, is it the house settling in the cool night air, or is it a spectral footstep on the floor above? You recall the annual ritual of Lemuria, which you performed just last month. You, as the paterfamilias, the head of the household, had to rise at midnight, walk through your silent house in bare feet, and cast black beans behind you over your shoulder 9 times, chanting a formula to persuade the ghosts to leave your home and not harm your family. It's a deeply serious ritual, and the memory of it now, in the dead of night, does little to calm your nerves. It only confirms that these fears are real and sanctioned by tradition itself. Then there are the dreams. A bad dream is never just a bad dream. It's a portent, an omen, a direct message that could be from an angry god, a benevolent ancestor offering a warning, or a mischievous spirit trying to lead you astray. Last night you dreamt your teeth were falling out. Was it a simple anxiety dream, or did it signify a catastrophic loss of power and influence, as the dream interpreters would claim? You try to dismiss it. It was probably the dormice, you tell yourself. But the thought lingers. You remember that to ward off the evil of a bad dream, you are supposed to tell it to the morning sun, to spit, or to recount it to a priest for purification. The nagging fear is that the dream wasn't just a product of your mind, but a preview of your fate. It's comforting to think a nightmare is just a nightmare, but what if it's a divine telegram warning you of your own doom? You grasp for the small, carved phallus you keep on a cord by your bed, a fascinum meant to ward off the evil eye. You remember that the tinkling of the bronze tintinnabulum in the garden is also supposed to frighten away malevolent spirits, a classic example of fighting noise with more noise. Historians will one day argue whether these nightly fears and superstitions were deeply held religious beliefs or simply a form of traditional folklore, like not spilling the salt. But as you lie there, listening, straining to separate the natural from the supernatural, the distinction feels meaningless. The fear is real. You are caught in a web of anxieties, both earthly and unearthly. And as a faint scratching sound starts up from somewhere within the wall, you close your eyes and pray that it's only a mouse, and not something else entirely. That faint scratching sound in the wall stops. You lie perfectly still, listening, your body rigid with a primal fear of the unseen. The silence it leaves behind is somehow more unnerving than the sound itself. As the adrenaline from your supernatural scare begins to fade, its departure allows a new awareness to surface. You become conscious of the surface beneath you, the very platform on which you are failing so spectacularly to find rest. Your mind, having exhausted every external, internal, and ethereal threat, now turns its critical attention to your bed. And it finds it wanting. Deeply, profoundly wanting. From the outside, your bed, your lectus cubicularis, is a work of art. The frame is solid bronze, intricately cast with images of Hercules performing his labors. The legs are carved to resemble lions' paws, and there are delicate inlays of ivory and tortoiseshell along the headboard. It is an object of profound luxury, a testament to your wealth. But a bed is not a statue. Its purpose is comfort, and the core technology of that comfort is, you must admit, rather primitive. Beneath you, stretched across that beautiful bronze frame, is a lattice of thick leather straps. They are pulled taut, creating a support system that is both firm and, after a few hours, unforgivingly hard in places. Its main job, it seems, is just to keep you from sleeping on the cold, mosaic floor. On top of this leather web rests your mattress, the Taurus. You are a man of means, so yours is not the simple sack of packed straw that most of Rome's populace sleeps on. No, you have spared no expense. Your mattress is filled with the finest goose feathers from the north. In theory, this is the pinnacle of comfort. In reality, it is like lying on a lumpy, uneven cloud that occasionally pokes you. The feathers, over months of use, have migrated and clumped together, creating dense hills and depressingly soft valleys. You are constantly engaged in a subtle, rolling battle to find the neutral territory. You shift your hips to the left to avoid a particularly stubborn lump under your back, only to find your shoulder now sinking into a deep declivity. It's like sleeping on a flock of disgruntled, compacted geese. Each movement is accompanied by a dry, rustling crunch, the sound of 1,000 tiny feathers protesting your search for ease. Then, you feel it. A tiny, sharp itch on your ankle. You ignore it. It comes again, more insistent this time. You reach down and scratch, a long, satisfying drag of your fingernails against your skin. And as you do, a cold dread trickles into your mind. You hope it is just a stray fiber from the wool blanket. You hope it is a momentary nerve firing in your tired body. But you suspect it is neither. You suspect it is a Cymex. A bed bug. The unwanted, uninvited, and infuriatingly common cohabitant of even the most luxurious Roman beds. The straw, wool, and feathers that stuff Roman mattresses are a paradise for them and their kin. You can fumigate with sulfur, you can have the slaves take everything out and beat it in the sun, but they always, eventually, come back. You now lie as still as possible, trying not to think about the tiny creatures that might be navigating the terrain of your flesh. It's wonderfully reassuring to know that you're not alone in bed, even if your companions are thirsty for your blood. And what of your head? It rests upon a pulvinous, pillow, also stuffed with feathers. It provides some elevation, but it requires constant fluffing and reshaping. Historians will one day argue about how common pillows were, whether they were a standard feature of the sleeping bed or used more for propping yourself up on the dining couch. Based on the crick that is currently developing in your neck, you might suggest they had not yet perfected the technology. Your head feels awkwardly angled, and the pillow, like the mattress, seems to have a will of its own. You are lying on a work of art, covered by fine linen sheets and a heavy Gallic wool blanket, in a bed stuffed with the most expensive materials. Yet comfort is nowhere to be found. The bed has become just another instrument in the orchestra of your nightly torment, a lumpy, itchy, unsupportive raft in a sea of noise and anxiety. You abandon the fight with the mattress. There is no winning position. You lie flat on your back, staring up into the smoky darkness where the ceiling should be, and you do what any desperate, sleepless person does: you consider your medical options. In your despair, you summon the memory of your physician, a man named Herophilus. He is a Greek, highly educated, with a quiet, confident manner that is both reassuring and intensely irritating. His services cost a small fortune, and you're still not entirely sure he knows what he's talking about. But he is the best, or at least the most expensive, that money can buy. Historians will one day argue about the exact social standing of doctors, or medici, in your society. Many, like Herophilus, are freedmen or even slaves from the Greek East, men whose intellect is valued but whose origins are viewed with a certain aristocratic suspicion. They are respected for their knowledge and simultaneously distrusted as foreigners who might just be after your money. Right now, you're leaning heavily towards the latter view. Herophilus visited last week to discuss your persistent sleeplessness. He sat by your peristyle, listened patiently to your complaints, and then proceeded to explain your condition in terms of the four humors, the very foundation of medical science as you know it. Your problem, he declared, was an excess of yellow bile. This made you choleric, prone to anger, anxiety, and a hot disposition that was simply incompatible with restful sleep. Your vital humors were, in essence, out of tune. His first prescription was dietary. He advised you to eat cooling, moist foods. At the top of his list was lettuce. The common garden lettuce, Lactica sativa, was widely believed to be a potent sedative. Its milky white sap was thought to mimic the sleep-inducing properties of the poppy, from which opium is made. So for the past week, you have dutifully consumed vast quantities of lettuce, raw, cooked, and in salads. You have eaten so much of the stuff you feel you might start photosynthesizing. The only discernible effect has been a mild sense of boredom at mealtimes. Your excessive yellow bile, it seems, is unimpressed by leafy greens. When you sent a slave to tell him of your continued suffering, he moved on to stage 2, the potion. A small, sealed amphora arrived yesterday, containing a dark, viscous liquid of truly heroic bitterness. It was a concoction of various herbs. You recognized the cloying sweetness of licorice root, meant to make it palatable, but it failed entirely to mask the earthy taste of valerian and the sharp tang of what you suspected was henbane. You know the poppy is the king of sleep, but its juice is a dangerous and powerful medicine, and Herophilus is rightly cautious with it. So you are left with these lesser, safer herbs. You took the prescribed dose before bed, and the main result was a foul taste that lingered for hours, a taste you can, in fact, still detect at the back of your throat. Now, lying here in the dead of night, you recall the more creative suggestions found in the encyclopedias of natural history, like the scrolls of Pliny the Elder. These are the home remedies, the things you try when the doctor's fancy potions fail. Pliny suggests that to ensure a sound sleep, one might try placing a magical herb known as henbane under the pillow. You just drank some of that, perhaps putting it under your head would be more effective. He also suggests that the tooth of a hyena, worn as an amulet, can prevent fearful dreams. A more extreme and frankly disgusting suggestion involves a poultice made from goat dung, applied to the temples. You try to imagine calling your slave in the middle of the night to request a goat dung poultice and decide that perhaps sleeplessness is the lesser of two evils. The cure sounds significantly worse than the disease. You have already tried the most common Roman sedative, wine. But as your churning stomach can attest, a night of heavy drinking leads not to true rest, but to a heavy, stagnant unconsciousness from which you wake feeling even more tired, head throbbing and mouth tasting like a legionary sandal. So there you are. The sensible medical advice has failed. The herbal remedies have failed. And you are not yet desperate enough to resort to animal parts or dung. You are a man at the apex of the most powerful civilization in the world, and your advanced medical science has offered you the choice between bitter potions that don't work and putting animal teeth under your pillow. You can't help but think that Herophilus's cures are very effective at treating one specific condition, an excess of gold in your purse. Defeated by medicine and betrayed by your own bed, you lie motionless, adrift in a sea of quiet misery. The house, for a moment, seems to have settled. The distant rumble of the carts has found a steady, hypnotic rhythm, and the various agitations of your body and mind have paused, as if for breath. It is in this momentary lull that you hear it. A soft, dry cough, quickly suppressed, from just outside your bedroom door. The sound is a stark reminder of a truth so constant you often forget it: you are never, ever truly alone. The cough belongs to Lycomedes, your cubicularius, your personal bedroom slave. And he is sleeping, if you can call it that, on a simple straw mat in the corridor, his ear trained for the slightest sound from you. Your domus is not just a home, it is a headquarters, a workshop, and a barracks. The familiar, which to you means your entire household, includes not just your wife and children, but the dozens of enslaved people who make your life of aristocratic leisure possible. Right now, as you lie sleepless, your house is still humming with quiet activity. In the kitchens, a skeleton crew will be scrubbing the grease from the pots and pans used for your banquet, their work illuminated by a single, smoky lamp. In the small stable near the back of the property, a groom might be tending to a horse that has fallen ill. A pair of maids might be whispering as they fold linen in the laundry room. Your home is a living organism, and its staff works in shifts, day and night. The idea of true privacy, of being completely cut off from the world, is a luxury you do not have. The most intimate and unsettling manifestation of this reality is Lycomedes. He is your shadow. He has been with you for 20 years, ever since he was a boy captured in Thrace. He laid out your toga this morning. He scraped the oil and sweat from your skin with a strigil at the baths. He will be there to dress you at dawn. And tonight, he sleeps on the floor, a human call button, ready to fetch you a drink of water, take down a sudden thought you wish to dictate, or perform any other service you might require. It's the ultimate form of executive assistance, and it means you live your life under constant, quiet observation. Every groan of discomfort, every muttered curse at the noisy wagons, every restless turn you make on this lumpy mattress, is heard. He knows you aren't sleeping. You trust Lycomedes as much as a master can trust a slave. But the relationship is a complex and unnerving one. Historians will one day engage in a long and complicated debate about the emotional nature of domestic slavery in Rome. Was it a state of perpetual, simmering hatred, or could genuine, if profoundly unequal, bonds of loyalty and even affection form? You look at your relationship with Lycomedes and you see both. You appreciate his efficiency, you are accustomed to his presence. But you are also aware, always, of the absolute power you hold over him, and the potential for resentment that power creates. He hears your private conversations with your wife. He knows which senators you truly despise. He knows about your debts. He is the repository of your secrets, which makes him both invaluable and dangerous. Be careful what you say in your sleep, because your personal attendant might be taking mental notes. This awareness adds a subtle poison to the air. You are the lord of this domain, yet you are also a performer on a brightly lit stage, and the audience never leaves. The thin walls of the rooms, designed for airflow, not for privacy, carry whispers. The slaves have their own networks, their own gossip, their own judgments. Your authority depends on a carefully maintained image of effortless power and control. But it's hard to maintain an aura of control when you are tossing and turning, groaning from indigestion, and visibly failing at the simple human task of sleeping. Your sleeplessness is not a private affliction. It is a public performance, a crack in your marble facade for the entire household to see. And this thought, the thought of being observed in your moment of weakness, is perhaps the most unsettling of all. It's one more reason for your eyes to remain wide open, staring into the dark. The awareness of being watched by your slaves, of living in a house of whispers, makes the room feel claustrophobic. You feel a sudden, desperate need for escape, a fantasy of walking out into a quiet, empty street for a breath of fresh air. But this fantasy instantly shatters against the hard reality of what the streets of Rome are actually like at night. Your mind, seeking any distraction, replays the journey you made just hours ago, returning home from a late dinner at the house of your colleague, Senator Gallus. And you remember why, for all its flaws, you are grateful to be inside this house. The memory brings with it a cold, residual fear. The moment Gallus's door slave pulled open the heavy wooden portal to let you leave, you were plunged into a darkness so profound it felt like a physical substance. There is no public lighting in Rome. The moon is fickle, often hidden by clouds or the towering apartment blocks, the insulae, that line the narrow, winding streets. Your world shrank to the small, sputtering pool of light cast by the single torch held aloft by one of your slaves, who walked ahead of your litter. You were carried by 4 strong Thracians, your personal lecticarii, their heavy sandals crunching on the uneven flagstones. This little bubble of torchlight and muscle was your only defense against the city. It was a beacon of your wealth, and therefore, a magnet for trouble. The journey was not long, but it was treacherous. The paving stones, slick with spilled garbage and moisture, were a constant hazard. The air, thick with the smoke from thousands of lamps and cooking fires, was even fouler out here than in your home. And then there were the dangers from above. As you passed beneath a particularly tall and decrepit-looking insula, you heard the telltale creak of a wooden shutter opening on the 4th floor. Your lead slave, wise to the ways of the city, shouted a warning, and your litter-bearer sidestepped with practiced speed, just as a cascade of liquid splashed onto the spot where you had been a second before. The stench that arose confirmed it was the contents of a chamber pot. There are, of course, laws against this. A man hit by such refuse can sue for damages, but finding the culprit in a teeming tenement building in the dead of night is next to impossible. The best you can do is develop quick reflexes, or rather, ensure your slaves have them. Beyond the rain of filth, there are the human predators who hunt in the dark. The real monsters of Rome are not the lemures you fear in your peristyle, but the grassators, the common muggers who lurk in the unlit alleyways. As your litter turned a corner, your torchlight briefly illuminated a scene in a side street, two figures holding a third against a wall, a flash of steel, a muffled cry that was quickly silenced. Your slaves did not break stride. You did not give an order to intervene. To do so would be to invite disaster. This was not your business. You might see a patrol of the vigils, the night watch, their helmets and spears briefly catching the light of your torch. But their presence is only mildly comforting. Historians will one day argue about their true function, whether they were an effective police force or simply a fire brigade ill-equipped to handle the city's rampant crime. From your perspective, they seem far more interested in spotting the glow of a potential fire than in confronting a gang of desperate cutthroats. So you made your way home, a slow, tense procession through a landscape of hidden threats. Every dark doorway could hold a thief. Every drunken shout could escalate into a brawl that might spill over and engulf you. Reaching your own front door, seeing it swing open to reveal the familiar light of your own atrium, brought a wave of profound relief. You were safe. You were home. And now, lying in the relative security of your bed, that memory of the street's predatory darkness clings to you. It reinforces the sense that you are under siege. The world outside your walls is not merely noisy and chaotic, it is actively hostile. The thick stone of your domus is a shield, and the knowledge of what it's shielding you from is just one more reason why true peace feels so impossibly far away. Your thoughts linger on the dark streets, on that brief, violent tableau your torch illuminated in the alleyway. The city's lawlessness feels absolute at night. But then, you hear it again, the rhythmic clatter of hobnailed sandals on stone, growing louder as it approaches your domus and then fading as it passes. A patrol of the vigils urbani, the watchmen of the city. The official response to the chaos. In theory, they are your protectors. In practice, they are another complicated thread in the tapestry of your sleeplessness. You are grateful for them, you suppose, but you do not find their presence entirely comforting. You are old enough to remember the time before them, when firefighting in Rome was a privatized, extortionate racket run by men like Marcus Crassus. His crews would arrive at a burning building and he would make the desperate owner a ridiculously low offer to buy the property. If the owner refused, the fireman would simply stand back and watch it burn. It was a monstrous system. So when the Emperor Augustus established the vigils as a formal, 7-cohort-strong public institution, everyone agreed it was a vast improvement. They are the city's first and only line of defense against its greatest fear, fire. As the patrol passes, you picture them in your mind's eye. They are mostly freedmen, men who have earned their citizenship, organized with military discipline. They carry axes and long hooks for tearing down walls. They have heavy ropes and ladders. The most sophisticated piece of equipment a patrol might have is a siphon, a rudimentary double-piston pump that can shoot a jet of water, though it's clumsy and not particularly powerful. Their primary firefighting technique is not to quench the flames, but to starve them. This often means demolishing the building next to the one that's on fire to create a firebreak. It's a brutal, destructive, but sometimes effective strategy. You just pray you're never the person whose perfectly intact house is torn to the ground to save the block. That's not exactly the kind of rescue you hope for. There. Mandate for fire prevention extends into your home in ways that are quite personal. The vigils have the authority to inspect properties for fire risks and to enforce safety rules. This includes the right to administer on-the-spot corporal punishment. If a patrol happens to check on your home and finds that a kitchen slave was negligent and left the hearth fire burning too brightly, they are legally permitted to deliver a flogging right there in your atrium. It's a strange and jarring thought that these public servants can enter your home and whip your staff for carelessness. It's a level of civic enforcement that feels deeply intrusive, another reminder that your domus is not entirely your own sovereign territory. This leads back to the question you and your peers often debate. Historians will echo this argument for centuries. What are the vigils truly for? Are they guardians of the peace, or just a blunt instrument to stop the city from burning down, with any crime fighting being a secondary, almost accidental, benefit? They patrol, so their presence deters some of the petty criminals. They have the power to arrest burglars and break up brawls. But their training, their equipment, their entire mindset is focused on fire. They are not investigators. They are not detectives. They are a force of urban damage control. A small patrol of 4 or 5 men would be foolish to intervene against a large, organized gang of grassators. Their real job is to protect the property of Rome, not necessarily the people. You remember the fire in the Subura district last winter. You were woken not by a patrol, but by the sound that every Roman dreads, a rising crescendo of shouting, spreading from block to block. It's the city's only real fire alarm. From your roof, you could see the hellish orange glow against the night sky. You could hear the roar of the fire and, eventually, the splintering crash of axes against wood as the vigils did their grim work. The sound was not comforting. It was the sound of controlled destruction. The patrol outside your door now is a symbol of that system. They are a thin, fragile line against the abyss of chaos, a constant reminder that the city you live in is an overgrown, flammable tinderbox that could erupt at any moment. Their footsteps fade, and you are left alone again with the knowledge that the city's guardians are just one more source of the night's unending anxiety. The sound of the patrol's footsteps is gone, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier than before. You are alone with your thoughts again. Or so you think. You shift your weight, the leather straps of the bed groaning in protest, and in the darkness beside you, there is a subtle movement. A soft sigh. Your wife, Cornelia, is awake too. You haven't spoken for what feels like an hour, both of you pretending to be asleep, each aware of the other's wakefulness. And with this shared consciousness, the final, and perhaps most impregnable, fortress against your peace is breached, your own marriage. The grand anxieties of the state and the city retreat, replaced by the quiet, piercing anxieties of the heart and home. Your marriage to Cornelia was, like most unions in your class, a masterpiece of social and economic strategy. Her family, the Cornelii, are ancient, respected, and possess vast tracts of land. Your family has the political momentum and the emperor's favor. The marriage was a merger, and the dowry she brought was the most romantic part of the contract. You were expected to produce heirs, to maintain the family's honor, and to present a united front in public. Affection was a potential bonus, not a prerequisite. Over 15 years, a kind of bond has formed, an alliance built on shared interests and the joint enterprise of running this massive household. But in the dark, in the shared space of the lectors, the unsaid things have room to breathe. The banquet was extravagant. Her voice is quiet, barely a whisper, but it cuts through the darkness with pinpoint precision. It's not a question. It's an accusation. Did you see how much wine that fool Varro drank? And flamingo tongues, really, Gaius? Are we so desperate to impress that we must resort to such tired novelties? The argument isn't about poultry, It's about money. It's about the precarious balancing act of maintaining your status. The displays of wealth that are necessary to project power are also a constant drain on your resources. Your son's gambling debts, the new mosaic you commissioned for the atrium, the endless gifts to influential officials, it all adds up. And Cornelia, as the dominar of the house, sees the accounts. She knows exactly where the money goes. Her whisper continues, shifting its line of attack. And Lucius? He was watching the dancing girls with a look I did not care for. He is too much like you. The conversation has moved from finance to legacy. Your son and heir. You want him to be strong, assertive, a true Roman man. She fears he is becoming reckless and decadent. You think she coddles him, she thinks you are a poor role model. This argument is as old as your son himself, a well-worn path you tread often in these late-night sessions. It's the Roman version of couples counseling, whispered in the dark, with no resolution in sight. The tension thickens. You know where this is leading. Her voice takes on a sharper, icier edge. He spends too much time with his new Greek tutor. She doesn't say any more. She doesn't have to. You know she's not talking about your son's education. She's talking about the beautiful young woman from Athens you hired 3 months ago. Infidelity, for a man of your station, is a common and largely accepted practice, as long as it's discreet and with women of a lower class. But acceptance does not preclude resentment. It's a bitter pill for a proud matrona to swallow. Underpinning all of this is the brutal legal reality of your marriage. Divorce is simple, at least for you. A quiet declaration, a written notice, and it's done. The dowry would have to be returned, and her powerful family would make things unpleasant, but the power to end it rests with you. It's a threat that never needs to be spoken to be felt. Historians will one day debate the true extent of a matrona's power. Was she just a domestic manager, or did her control of the household give her real authority? Lying here, faced with Cornelia's quiet, strategic disassembly of your choices, you know the truth. You may have the law on your side, but she has the house, the children, the social connections. She is not your subordinate, she is the co-consul of this small, turbulent republic. The argument fades into a stony, resentful silence. You both turn away, creating a yard of cold linen between you. You have now arrived at the heart of your sleeplessness. The noise, the fear, the indigestion, they were all just the outer layers. The core of it is here, in this bed, in the quiet conflict with the person you are closest to in all the world. The last sanctuary is no sanctuary at all. The silence in the bedroom becomes a tangible pressure. To remain in this bed, next to the cold, quiet form of your wife, feels like a surrender. The fight for sleep is over, and you have lost. Decisively. Lying here any longer is pointless. With the slow, careful movements of a thief, you slide your legs over the side of the bronze frame, your feet finding the cool mosaic of the floor. Cornelia does not stir, or if she does, she gives no sign. You are a shadow moving through the darkness of your own home. You pause at the doorway and whisper your attendant's name, Archivist. A stirring from the floor, and he is on his feet instantly, a ghost in a simple tunic, ready for your command. You have given up on rest, you have decided to make your insomnia productive. Or at least, less boring. He follows you, lighting a few extra oil lamps as you pad silently down the corridor to your tablinum, your study. This is your command center, the room where you meet important clients and manage your affairs. The shelves are lined with scrolls, histories, philosophy, poetry, legal texts. In the center of the room is a heavy wooden desk. For a moment, you consider reading. Perhaps losing yourself in the campaigns of Alexander or the verses of Virgil would calm your racing mind. But your eyes feel raw and sandy, and the thought of focusing on the dense, unpunctuated text of a scroll is exhausting. No, not reading. Writing, perhaps. You gesture to Lycomedes, who brings you a set of tabulae, wax tablets bound together with a leather cord, and a sharp bronze stylus. It is the Roman notebook. Much of your official correspondence is dictated to a scribe, an amanuensis, a man trained in the art of swift and elegant lettering. Historians will one day puzzle over how much the Roman elite wrote with their own hands. Did they dictate everything, or was the act of writing a personal, private skill? For you, the answer is, it depends. For sensitive matters, for letters where the nuance must be perfect, you write it yourself. You sit down, pulling a lamp closer. You intend to draft a reply to Senator Marcellus, the one who complimented your wine with just a little too much enthusiasm. You need to be careful with him. You press the sharp point of the stylus into the soft, dark beeswax. It makes a faint, dry, scratching sound. You etch a few lines, the Latin letters appearing as pale marks against the dark wax. You try to formulate a sentence that is both friendly and subtly warning. But the words feel clumsy. The brilliant insight you thought you had an hour ago now seems obvious and weak. The great thoughts one has at 3 in the morning rarely survive their first contact with reality. You stare at the scratches on the wax. It's no good. Your mind is too fragmented for the delicate dance of political correspondence. With a frustrated sigh, you use the flat end of the stylus to smooth the wax over, erasing your clumsy efforts. Work is not the answer. You need a distraction, not a challenge. You look at Lycomedes, who is standing silently by the door, awaiting your next whim. The dice, you say, your voice raspy. He nods, disappearing for a moment and returning with a small, ornate wooden box and a leather dice cup. He spreads a piece of thick wool cloth on the table to muffle the sound, and you sit opposite each other. You are about to engage in a quiet act of rebellion. Gambling with dice, or Alea, is technically illegal outside of the Saturnalia festival. But everyone does it. It is one of the city's favorite vices. Taking your mind off your financial worries by potentially creating new ones seems like a perfectly Roman solution. Lycomedes shakes the 4 knucklebones in the cup, a soft rattle, and spills them onto the cloth. You lean forward to inspect the throw. This is a game of chance and skill called tali, and for the next hour, it is your whole world. You are not thinking about your wife, or the emperor, or the leaky roof on your tenant's farm. You are thinking only of the numbers, of the odds, of the next throw. You and your slave, master and servant are momentarily equals, collaborators in a small, illicit crime. You have not found peace. You have not found rest. But here, in the warm, flickering lamplight of your study, rattling a cup of dice against the vast, noisy, sleepless night, you have found a temporary truce. You are no longer fighting the darkness. You are simply waiting for it to end. The gentle rattle of the knucklebones in the leather cup has become a small, private rhythm in a world of chaos. The game is a temporary shield. But then, a new sound from outside penetrates your study, a deep, resonant hum that seems to vibrate in your chest. It's a sound that has been there all along, but you were too distracted to isolate it. You hold up a hand, and like a mead freezes, the dice cup poised. You set your own cup down. The game is over. You tilt your head and you just listen. Having given up on blocking out the world, you decide to truly hear it, to dissect its anatomy, sound by sound. You are about to become a connoisseur of the Roman night's cacophony. The first and most fundamental sound, the one you just noticed, is the sound of water. It's the city's pulse. Of course, there is the gentle splashing from the fountain in your own peristyle, but this is something bigger. It's the sound of the great aqueducts, the arteries of Rome, delivering millions of gallons of water into the city's holding tanks and distribution points. With less water being drawn for bathing and business than during the day, the pressure is high. You can hear it as a constant, low-frequency hum, the sound of a colossal plumbing system that never sleeps. It's the original white noise machine, just with the added frisson of knowing it's running through lead pipes. This constant thrum of moving water is the bass note over which the rest of the night symphony is played. Next, you pick up a rhythmic, percussive thudding from a block or two away. It's too steady to be a random brawl. You identify it instantly, a bakery. The city's bakers work through the night, kneading enormous batches of dough, pounding it on heavy wooden tables to work the air out. The sound is the heartbeat of the city's appetite, the promise of fresh bread for the morning crowds. This leads your mind down a path of speculation. Historians will one day debate the full extent of Rome's nocturnal industry. Was it just the bakers? You listen more closely. You think you can hear the faint, rhythmic sloshing and stamping from a falanica, a laundry, where slaves tread cloth in vats of water and urine. Maybe even the distant, sharp clang, clang, clang of a blacksmith working late on an urgent commission. The city isn't just being supplied at night, in its hidden corners, it is still working, still producing. Then comes a sound so alien and shocking that it makes the fine hairs on your arms stand up. It starts as a deep, guttural cough, a sound that seems too large for any human chest. It is followed by a deafening, earth-shaking roar that echoes off the stone faces of the buildings. Every dog in the neighborhood erupts in a frantic, terrified chorus of barking. Lycomed's eyes go wide. It's a lion. You realize a new shipment of beasts for the games must be making its way through the city, the heavy cages trundling along the same cart-rutted streets as the wine and the oil. Hearing a lion roar in the heart of the city is a chilling reminder of the brutal spectacles that lie at the center of Roman life. It's a far more effective wake-up call than any rooster. Trying to sleep here isn't just like being in a traffic jam, it's like being in a traffic jam that has been rerouted through a zoo's predator house. You are now fully immersed, an expert analyst of the night. You can distinguish the high-pitched squeal of the wheels on a two-wheeled Sisyphum from the low groan of a massive four-wheeled raider hauling a block of marble from the port. You hear the faint bleating of sheep, an early herd being driven towards the Forum Boreum for the morning market. You recognize the soft, rhythmic slapping sound of a scripter pasting up public announcements for tomorrow, his brush smoothing the papyrus against a wall. The night is a language, and you are fluent. Every sound tells a story of commerce, labor, danger, and life. It doesn't bring you peace. It doesn't make you sleepy. But as you sit there in the lamplight, dice forgotten, you feel a profound, almost scholarly connection to the vast, sleepless, breathing organism that is Rome. You are not just in it, you are a part of it, one more conscious nerve in its enormous, restless brain. You sit in your study, the dice resting where they fell, your mind a quiet catalogue of the city's nocturnal sounds. But as you listen, you notice a subtle shift in the composition. The heavy, grinding rumble of the supply carts is beginning to thin out, their frantic rush to get in and out of the city before sunrise nearing its end. And a new sound is emerging from beneath it, the chirping of sparrows and finches in the garden, a sound that has no place in the true dark. You look up, past the tiled roof of the hallway, towards the sliver of sky visible above the eastern wall of your peristyle. It is no longer the flat, inky black of night. It is now a deep, bruised violet, the color of a fading anxiety. It is the dawn. And it does not bring you hope. It brings you a deadline. You glance at the corner of your study where your clepsydra sits. It's a simple but clever device, a bronze vessel filled with water that drips at a steady pace into a container below, with markings to indicate the passing hours of the night. The water level has reached the final mark. The night is officially over. The knowledge lands with a heavy, physical thud in your stomach. Now, the full weight of your sleeplessness comes crashing down upon you. Your eyes burn as if filled with sand. A dull, persistent ache has settled behind your temples. Your body feels heavy and sluggish, as though your bones are made of lead. Your mind, which just moments ago felt so sharp and analytical in its dissection of the night's sounds, is now a foggy, buzzing hive. The anxieties of the night, the political plots, the family tensions, the financial worries have not been resolved. They have simply been churned and rechurned for 8 straight hours, leaving them more potent and more tangled than before. The day ahead unspools in your mind, a scroll of obligations that feels impossibly long. First, and most immediately, comes the salutatio. In less than an hour, your atrium will be flooded with your clients. Dozens of them. Men of all classes, from struggling poets to wealthy merchants, all of whom depend on you. You must greet each one, listen to their petitions, offer advice, promise favors, and project an aura of effortless authority and calm confidence. The sheer performance of it, the thought of smiling and appearing magnanimous when all you feel is a bone-deep weariness, seems like a Herculean task. After that, you must be carried to the forum, to argue a legal case for an ally. Then to the Senate House, to debate a new grain subsidy. Then a dozen other meetings and obligations, a relentless marathon of public duty that will not end until it is time, once again, to come home and fail to sleep. You are not alone in this. You think of your peers, the other senators and magistrates. They too live with this crushing burden of sleeplessness, fueled by the same anxieties, the same noise, the same pressures. Historians will one day argue about the health effects of this chronic exhaustion on the Roman ruling class. Did it contribute to the famous paranoia of one emperor, the rash military decisions of another? Was the fate of the empire sometimes shaped by men who were simply too tired to think clearly? Looking inward at your own frayed nerves, at the way your judgment feels clouded and your temper short, you feel you are a living specimen in that very debate. You are governing a world, and you cannot even govern your own rest. You rise from your chair, your joints protesting. Lycomedes follows as you walk the silent corridors back towards your bedroom. The house is already beginning to stir with the quiet, efficient bustle of the morning routine. You see your wife, Cornelia, already dressed, speaking in low, firm tones to a pair of maids, directing the first tasks of the day. There is no gentle transition, no quiet moment to gather yourself. The day has already seized control. You enter your cubiculum and catch your reflection in a polished silver mirror hanging on the wall. The man who stares back at you is pale and haunted, his eyes red-rimmed, his face etched with the fatigue of a long, lost battle. You are the master of this grand house, a lord in the most powerful city in the world, yet you have been defeated by the night. And now, you must put on your public face, and begin the entire cycle, all over again. And so your long night comes to a close, a night spent wrestling with the endless chorus of a city that never sleeps, with the weight of ambition, and with the ghosts of yesterday's dinner. Your journey through the anxieties of ancient Rome is over now, and you can let the story fade, like the last flicker of a Roman oil lamp giving way to the soft light of morning. That world of noise and worry can recede, becoming distant and quiet, a story told rather than a reality lived. Unlike that tired Roman, you do not have a forum to attend, no clients to greet, no plots to untangle. Your only duty now is to rest. So let the heavy weight of the narrative drift away. Let the sounds of the carts and the whispers of the slaves dissolve into the gentle hum of your own quiet room. Allow the stillness to settle deep into your bones, a stillness the master of that Roman house so desperately craved but could never find. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to worry about. There is only this moment, this quiet, this slow and gentle descent into the peace that you have earned. Let the darkness be a comfort, a soft blanket under which you can finally let go.